Well, welcome everyone to Weatherize Kearsarge. My name is Ed Hoyt. I'm your MC to kick things off today. Very exciting to see so many people come out. I'd like to mention some of the people behind the event who've worked on this event, including our partners and sponsors. One of our partners a key partner is Vital Communities, which is a nonprofit based in White River Junction, which takes a regional approach to improving areas such as transportation, energy, supporting local businesses, and agriculture. And in terms of the energy component, which is what they're here for today, their overall goal is to inspire energy action and to help our region meet 100% of its energy needs through energy efficiency and renewable energy by 2050. Another partner is Kearsarge Climate Action, a recently formed group which fosters and supports climate issues in the events and issues in the Kearsarge and Sunapee region. It has sponsored in the last year an Energy Expo last spring, and last fall it sponsored a electric vehicle expo. New Hampshire Saves is a sponsor of this event. You'll be hearing about them. They are the folks that have the resources and they have a lot of tips about energy efficiency, and they also are the people that will be, the group that will be giving the rebates for the work that you might be doing on your home. I'd also like to thank Kearsarge Community Presbyterian Church for giving us the space to host the event, and I very much would like to thank our sizable cadre of volunteers who have done a lot of outreach, as you can tell, and have also been behind many aspects, setting this up today, doing some publicity, getting on the radio, a lot of different things to promote this program. We also have with us today our three partner contractors, and they are ABC Energy Savings back here, Yankee Thermal Imaging over here, and what's the Quality Insulation over here, and Granite State Solar. Might as well mention that right now. This is today is a Weatherize Kearsarge event, but there's a wider program that this is one of two components. The second component is Solarize Kearsarge, and you can do one or the other or both. And if you're interested in getting started with the Solarize, you could actually take some initial steps even before we have the launch for that event, which will be in the early spring. But I would like to give you folks a minute to say something about the program, if you wish.
My name's Eric Shiflett. I'm the co-owner of Granite State Solar. I'm here with Jamie, who is our project coordinator. We're basically able to share information with you about this next round of Solarize Kearsarge, which officially kicks off in the spring. But we're ready right now we've already established all the pricing parameters and the product parameters, and we can talk to anybody and do site evaluations and even get started well before then if somebody has a nice roof. We're not digging through the frosty ground right yet, but when it comes time, we'll be doing a lot of ground installs too. The Solarize campaign concept, just to refresh your memories, if you were familiar with the Solarize campaign from a few years ago, or if this is a new concept to you, it's like a group buy model where we went and beat up our distributors to say, hey, this Weatherize Kearsarge, we've got all these towns participating, and we think we're going to probably install 50 to 100 solar arrays in this area as a result of this outreach and all the volunteer activity. We want better pricing. We're going to buy container loads of panels and inverters, and we're going to get economies of scale. And so the more people that sign up, the lower the price goes for everybody. We have 3 different pricing tiers. I don't need to get into all those details with you now, but it's extremely competitive, and it's sort of like that group buy model where we anticipate a certain volume and everybody pitches in and makes a commitment, and we pass those savings along to you that we generate by being able to get some better, more competitive pricing from our distributors. That's the idea. So we're here to answer questions for you today. The campaign hasn't kicked off yet, but I appreciate the opportunity to say hello. Thanks, Ed.
This is a really wonderful program. If you think about how weatherizing a home or solarizing a home is going to make the difference for decades. Even modestly saying for one home it's going to make a difference for 20 years. And if you've got 100 homes, or even if you got, let's say, 50 homes to do that in the region, that's 1,000 years together of energy savings going forward, 50 times 20. And I think we're going to get well more than 50 to be involved. So this is a pretty exciting event to do this together, to get the savings that we're achieving by having this effort coordinated. And the rest of this program will be really about the nuts and bolts. And I'm going to turn this over to Sarah Brock, who is leading the effort for Vital Communities. And I've been very impressed with how well organized this program is, how efficient it is, and how much they are able to rapidly move through different stages of training and get us on board. And I think you'll find if you get involved in having something done with your home, you'll find that you get all your questions answered. It's a very well-run initiative. So Sarah, I'll turn it over to you. Sarah will be presenting for about a half hour or so, and we'll bring in, there'll be a word from the contractors along the way.
So as Ed said, I'm going to talk at you for 30 minutes or so, and there will be time for questions at the end. Our contractors are going to come up and answer any questions you have. So chime in if it's urgent, otherwise you can wait until the end. How many of you are already familiar with Vital Communities? We are going to talk through 3 sections today. I'm going to start with a bit of energy efficiency 101, assuming I can get nice visuals to help me, and get us all on the same page. And then I'm going to talk you through what it's really like to weatherize your home in New Hampshire in 2019. And then we're going to talk a bit about Weatherize Upper Valley, and I'll help you understand what the perks of the program are and how you can get involved. And since I can't start with the Energy 101 because we don't have my visuals, I think I'm going to skip and I'm going to explain a little bit about weatherizing your home in the Upper Valley. So the first question is, what do I mean when I say weatherize your home? Generally, we're talking about a home improvement project using a specialized contractor who's gone through special training around energy efficiency. And generally, we're focusing on air sealing and insulation as the focus of that work. So that's what I mean by weatherize your home. I'll explain some of the reasons why you do that in a bit, but since I can't do that right now, we are going to jump ahead. The way that you weatherize your home in New Hampshire right now in 2019 starts with NH Saves. Now, who has heard of NH Saves? Great. Who knew that NH Saves could pay you up to $4,000 to help you air seal and insulate your home? Okay, fewer hands. We have Gordon here from Eversource and NH Saves. The thing you need to know about NH Saves is that NH Saves is really just the name of a suite of energy efficiency programs offered by your electric utility. And all of the electric utilities collaborate and offer the same programs and offer them under this NH Saves banner. So if you're an Eversource customer, it's Gordon who's going to be helping you. If you're a New Hampshire Electric Co-op customer, it's a gentleman named Phil. So the first thing that you are going to do, and the first thing that this program will help you do, is find out if you can qualify for this weatherization rebate through NH Saves. And the way you do that is you find out whether you use enough energy per square foot in your home. And in my experience, we've run weatherized programs like this all across the Upper Valley, Vermont, and New Hampshire. And generally 60–70% of people are able to qualify for that up to $4,000. They'll cover 50% of your weatherization costs. So it's worth finding out if you can qualify for that. That's like icing on the cake. And if you do happen to qualify for those rebates, you will get a $100 energy audit, the rest of the cost of which the utility is paying your contractor on the back end. And then they will pay 50% of your project cost, up to, see if I can figure this out, up to $4,000. And they will finance the remainder, really. Thank you. Okay, now I can go back to my normal, regular scheduled programming. No more riffing. Okay, so, cleaning slate. You ready to learn about energy efficiency 101? Okay. We're talking about home improvement projects. We're going to hire a specialized contractor. We're going to be focused on air sealing and insulation. There's a couple of reasons to do this. First is obvious. You want to reduce, thank you. You want to reduce your energy use. This is a good way to do that. Obviously, that equates to energy savings. Eric's blocking the projector. And another relatively obvious, but maybe not so obvious till you have the work done, reason is comfort. Any of us who here has had their home weatherized already? Yeah. Those of us who have had it done know that there's a pretty dramatic increase in comfort. Increased health and safety, especially air quality. Increased home durability, especially related to how moisture and water might damage our homes. And of course, anything we do to reduce our energy use is good for the environment. I'll circle back to some of these benefits and dig in a little deeper later on. So whose house looked like this last week? No, I'm sorry, you need to be here. I'm glad you're here. This is a really particularly bad example. This is a real house, obviously. This person clearly is losing a lot of heat through their roof. Probably not a lot of insulation there. And it's pretty obvious that the heat is going straight up through the roof, is melting the snow. The water is trickling down underneath the snow that remains to the eave, which is cold because it's hanging over the edge of the house and it's freezing, creating a pretty terrible ice dam and icicle situation. So this is, you don't have to focus this, I can do the bottom line of this presentation. And for any of you that have a situation even remotely close to this, hopefully you'll learn a thing or two today that will help you have hope that you can resolve this for the future. So there's two ways that buildings lose heat, convection and conduction. This is as sciencey as we're going to get today, so buckle up. Convection, this is where we'll start. This is a pretty basic principle. Warm air rises, right? So we heat the air in our house in the wintertime. It rises up through the house, and if you have any air leaks or gaps at all, it's going to find its way out through your attic and through your upstairs. And when that happens, cold air will be drawn in through the cracks in your basement to replace it. So if you have a lot of gaps and cracks in your home, what this is going to create is a nice little chimney effect. That's what we feel as drafts. I know we all know what that feels like. The way we address that is through air sealing to stop that air from moving around. Second way buildings lose heat is conduction. And this is just the idea that heat moves through solid objects, your walls, your ceilings, and we can slow the flow of that heat if we improve the insulation property of our walls and ceilings and so forth. So we add insulation to reduce conductive heat loss. So let's talk a bit about air sealing. Air sealing is typically the most cost-effective thing you can do to improve comfort and reduce energy costs. Generally, we start in the attic to stop the air from leaking out in the first place. And then we focus in the basement to try to stop the air from getting sucked in. And then there may also be things you can do in the center of the house. But as a general rule, when you meet with a professional who knows a thing or two about energy efficiency, the recommendations you're going to get for how to reduce your energy costs and be more comfortable are going to typically focus in the attic and in the basement with respect to both air sealing and insulation. And that's because that's where most of our heat loss is happening in most of our homes. These spaces also tend to be relatively unfinished, so it's pretty easy and cost-effective to get in there and do the insulation and air sealing work. So for most of us, if you get a set of recommendations back from a contractor, they're going to have you focusing on the top and bottom of your house, and it's going to make a big difference. So let's talk about insulation for a moment. I've got a few examples here of common insulation upgrades that you might see proposed by one of our contractors. First example is here. This is a contractor who is blowing in cellulose into an attic. So what he's probably done is removed the old gross pink or yellow fiberglass bats that probably weren't doing much in that attic. He has air sealed every plumbing and electrical penetration that he can get his hands on to try to stop air from getting from the warm house up into the attic. And then now he's blowing in a nice fluffy layer of cellulose, which is recycled paper product that's got some product in it that can make sure the mice don't take up residence. But Generally, this is a pretty common way to address your attic. Here we have an example of spray foam being installed in a basement. Spray foam is a little bit more expensive than other insulation products, but it air seals at the same time that it insulates. And it's got a better resistance value, or R value, per inch. So you can pack more insulating power into a small amount of space, which in some areas of our homes is pretty essential. It's relatively common in situations like this, spraying into in and along the box sills or along the bottom edge of a floor joist like this. I had spray foam put into a sloped ceiling on my second floor where there was only about this much space to put insulation, and so that was the most insulation I could get for a limited space. Over here, we have an example of a contractor blowing in dense pack cellulose into a wall cavity. In most cases, your contractor is not going to recommend that you insulate your walls because, like I said, most of our heat loss is actually in the attic or in the basement, and it can be a little trickier to get into the wall to insulate. But in some cases, it makes sense. And if it makes sense, this is a relatively common way to do it. They would pop off the siding in a strip along the outside of the house and drill through the sheeting in between the bays, and then just pump in the cellulose in with whatever else was in there already until it's nice and full and you've got a nicely insulated wall. And then they patch that back up, put the siding back up, and you're good. And then the final example here is rigid foam board, which is a relatively common do-it-yourself project, but also installed by our contractors. This is an easy way to get a whole lot of insulation power. It's foam, so it's also got a good resistance value, good insulation per inch. And it's commonly used to install along the cement walls of our basements to try and get some insulation in the basement. The key here is that you want both. And when you talk to your contractor about what you can do in your home to reduce your energy costs and be more comfortable, they're going to help you put the right mix of insulation and air sealing together in the various parts of your home to meet your budget and meet your priorities. But it's never going to make sense to just do one or the other because they truly do work best when they're working in concert. So I didn't mention windows. That is because in most cases it doesn't make sense to replace windows if your goal is energy savings. Windows are just too expensive. It would make more sense to put that money into additional air sealing and insulation rather than replace those windows. Now, if you have another reason for replacing your windows, of course it makes sense to put in a high efficiency window. That will help you. But the fact of the matter is, glass is not very energy efficient no matter what you do. So the best thing to do is make sure that the window frames are as tight as you can get them and focus on air sealing and insulation elsewhere. Okay, you made it to the science. And I made it through my technical difficulties. Are you guys feeling good? Okay. So let's get back to the whole weatherizing your home in New Hampshire bit. I'll breeze through this because I already mentioned it, but the visual will help it sink in. We are very fortunate in New Hampshire that around 60 to 70% of you are going to use enough energy per square foot currently to be able to qualify for this rebate program through NH Saves. And part of what Weatherize Upper Valley, Weatherize Kearsarge will do is help find out if you qualify for this and get you into that program. Second thing you need to know about weatherizing your home in New Hampshire in 2019 is that you've got to trust the professionals. There is a training, and the most common is Building Performance Institute. It's a national training that all of our contractors and all of the contractors approved by NH Saves statewide have had to go through. This means that they're not just energy efficiency experts, but they're actually trained to diagnose your house kind of like you would diagnose a person, recognizing that if you tweak something over here, like how air leakage is happening in the attic, you could affect something over here like how moisture is collecting in the house. And you have to really understand how all of those pieces fit together in order to make sure the home is safe and healthy and that you get the results you want without the unintended consequences. So it's probably not a good idea, even if you do have a handyman down the street that you typically work with on stuff like this, to trust just anybody to do insulation and air sealing with you. It's probably smart to at least have a consultation with one of these guys and make sure that you know how what you're doing is going to impact other areas of your home. Good news is the 3 contractors that we have to work with through the Weatherize Kearsarge program are all current on their BPI training and are all on the NH Saves approved contractors list, which means they go through additional quality checks throughout the year. So we can be pretty confident that they know what they're doing and that Typical cost and savings for these projects. This is hard to nail down because it's very true that every home is completely different. But to give you a ballpark, according to NH Saves, the typical project that goes through their program, their rebate program, costs about $6,000 before rebates. I've seen projects as low as a few $1,000s and as high as $12,000 or more. So it really depends on your budget and what you're trying to address and how much work your home needs to reach your goals. But this is a good little benchmark, and $6,000 and around 20% energy savings can stick in your head as a ballpark. And here are some actual examples to give you a little bit more context. This is a woman, this house is actually in Vermont. She spent $8,500. She mostly did some spray foam, and she did actually replace a couple of windows. And she got her energy use down by about 20%. This is a house also on the Vermont side of the river. She spent $7,500. She was mostly focused on air sealing, although she did some insulation as well. And she was able to reduce her air leakage by over 30%. And this house in the corner is my house. I went through this last year. I decided to do everything that my contractor recommended, which some people are able to do. I'm an energy geek, so I kind of knew I was going to be doing as much as I could. So we spent $12,000. $4,000 of that came back to us from NH Saves. It was actually a co-pay situation, so I never had to pay it. And I reduced my air leakage by 50%. And I haven't gone through my first winter, so I can't verify my fuel, but I'm using a whole lot less propane than I was before. And we're going to hear from some other folks who have gone through this in a little bit. So no matter what you end up doing in your home, it starts in the same place. It's going to start with what we call an energy audit. It's really just a home assessment with one of these trained contractors, and you've got 3 to choose from in this program. It's going to take 3 or 4 hours. You're going to want to be there because the big value of the energy audit is being on site with a professional, talking about your home and learning a whole lot about what's going on. There's a few things that they're going to bring with them, so I'm going to walk you through that so you're not surprised. If it's safe to do so, they're going to set up what's called a blower door. You've probably heard of this before. It basically depressurizes your house so that they can measure how leaky your house is and track down air leaks that might not be obvious otherwise. This is a gizmo that this contractor is using to measure how powerful this person's bathroom fan is. I put that up there to demonstrate that these guys are really paying attention to how airflow and moisture are interacting in your home as they tighten it up. And it's not uncommon for a contractor to do math on the back end and tell you, you need to make sure to run your bathroom fan for X minutes a day, just to ensure that you're truly getting all the stale air out of your house now that we've tightened up all those other cracks that were giving you fresh air before. So the contractor's looking out for you, and if by the very slim chance you actually tighten your home up to the point where it is too tight and it's not really safe, then they will recommend that you put in a mechanical ventilation system. But in my experience, most of our homes are so leaky that it's actually quite hard to get to that point. The more common thing is that they'll tell you you need to run your bathroom fan once a day. Third picture is an infrared camera. This is not always used, but it can be useful sometimes to help the contractor see as well as feel air leaks and to identify where there might be gaps in insulation that might not be obvious. And then the final picture is a contractor who's measuring some points around air quality near this combustion appliance. The part of the energy audit is a testing of all of your combustion appliances, make sure they're working properly, venting properly, and working efficiently. It's very important to make sure that the gases that are produced by anything that burns anything in your home are going out of your house and not being sucked back in. And so they're paying really close attention to that and can resolve any issues if they find. So I promised I'd circle back to benefits. Now that you've gotten a bit more of the behind the scenes, I can give you a little more context about some of these. When we say air quality is a potential benefit, I'm talking about what happens when you plug up all those holes in your basement and your attic, and suddenly you're not drawing air through your basement where it's picking up whatever mouse droppings and mold and dust is there and coming into your house. So your air is going to be a little cleaner because you're not filtering so much of that through into the air you're breathing. Moisture. Many of us are used to putting up with winters where the humidity in our house is like practically zero and our hands are cracking respiratory system is suffering. When you stop having so many drafts and you plug up some of those air leaks, the air can hold more moisture, which of course then you need to expel safely, but it can mean that it's easier to live in your house. You don't have to put as much lotion on and you're not coughing as much because there's just more moisture in the air. Home durability. This has to do with the fact that if you do this work properly, for example, if you seal up your second story so there's none of that moist hot air leaking up into your attic and it's not condensating on the underside of your roof anymore, or you're not creating ice dams and having water leakage anymore because you've properly insulated your attic, that's going to help your home stay durable in the long term in the way it wasn't before. And then finally, comfort. And this is my 2-minute warning for my folks who are champions and are going to come up and share a few words with you. Get ready to come talk. Comfort is a big one, and I can attest to this because, like I said, I went through this program myself last year. This is some of what I mean when I say your home's more comfortable. First, the reduced drafts. Obviously, when you air seal, you're going to have less of the draft that you're used to in the winter. That's going to mean the air is going to feel warmer, even if it's not technically any warmer, and it's not going to be as dry, which is nice. Fewer cold spots. I notice this most on my floors. If you have insulation and air sealing done in your basement, the basement's not going to be as cold, which means your first floor is not going to be as cold. Your feet are going to notice that. Consistent heat. Many of us are used to going up and down the stairs and noticing a temperature differential in the summer and the winter when you go to the second floor and back to the first floor. There's less of that. If you do the attic insulation and air sealing, in the summertime, the second floor stays a whole lot cooler, and in the wintertime, it stays a whole lot more like the rest of the house. There's also less fluctuation throughout the house. The house will just hold its temperature better. It's going to be a little bit less of the cycling on and off of the furnace all day long, and a little bit less of the temperature kind of going like this throughout the day. And then noise level is sort of an unexpected side effect, but it makes sense. If you add insulation and seal up air leaks in your house, air's not getting in, but sound's not getting in as easily either. So if you're on a busy road, you're not going to hear as much of that. So at this moment, I'd like to invite the folks who are champions to come up here. They're each going to talk for just a minute, tell you what they did on their house, and then you should find them afterwards if you've got follow-up questions. So Bob and others, I know there's several of you here.
Hey everyone, I'm Jason Teester. I live in Sutton. Wow, this is a great crowd. Interested in energy efficiency and beefing up your home's air sealing and insulation. My wife and I did that in 2014, and we noticed a marked difference in our comfort level, like Sarah was talking about. Not only did our oil bills kind of go down, but we felt more comfortable in the house to the point where we were able to keep our 3-season sunroom because we were able to add insulation and air sealing in our sunroom. We can now kind of enjoy that in the wintertime as well. Well, also because we added a pellet stove. I mean, we did have a small propane stove in there, but it doesn't pump out the same BTUs as our pellet stove. But yeah, it really is a worthwhile investment in your home. You are, making an improvement. It's kind of a no-brainer because Eversource is going to pay for, half of it. You get up to $8 grand worth of improvements to your home. It's a nice selling point if you're looking to resell your home at some point. But even just kind of being able to be comfortable in your home, I noticed ourselves just, maybe we can crank up the thermostat a little bit more now, and even being able to do that, but still seeing the energy savings was a really nice feature of this. So yes, it's great to see. I know some of the professionals here, they know what they're talking about when they come into your home and they start looking at the nooks and crannies in your home. I know that can kind of be a little nerve-wracking sometime, but these diagnostic tools that they use are really really great because they really find those nooks and crannies where you're leaking or heat outside or pulling cold air in down in the basement. So it's just a no-brainer. So I strongly endorse it if you haven't already noticed. And I'm happy to chat with you about my experience as well. So pass it over to Bob now. Hey, Bob.
My name is Bob Jordan. I'm from a little west of here, up in the hills in Plainfield. I have the very good fortune of having Bob Eldridge from ABC Energy do my project a year ago. And just like everything Sarah says, everything everybody has said in promotion of the project, it is just phenomenal, the results that you get. It's not only my comfort in the home, it's the pet's comfort in the home. When you got your two big furry cats sprawled out on the vinyl flooring in the kitchen because it's so nice and warm down where it wasn't before, that speaks well for itself. But the paperwork for everything is really daunting and really scary to look at and all that kind of stuff. I have copies of everything that I went through when I got it, so I'm more than happy to talk to anybody about showing them what the thing works. Bob, again, was phenomenal. He was a contractor I provided or called, and, you know, as fast as they can get to you, they will call you and they'll set up the appointment. He'll come spend 3 or 4 hours at your home. Very personable guy, very professional. The crews that come and did the work were very professional, very respectful of your home and security and and clean up after themselves and do a phenomenal job. But the end result, you can see right off quick how much more comfortable a home is, how much more, in my case, I actually got to turn the thermostat down because it was so much warmer and there wasn't so much free air flowing through everywhere that I didn't even realize. So it was a great program, and there's a whole pile of us around here that have dealt with it before and very familiar with how things work. And if all else fails, you can always call Sarah, and she's the go-to girl for, if we can't answer the question, she can. So it's a great program, strongly endorse it, go for it.
I'm David Keller. I'm the pastor of the South Newberry Union Church, but I live in Concord, and I had this work done in 2015 under New Hampshire Saves, and by some strange twerk of fate, I actually found my paperwork, which is amazing. This is what the form looks like that you fill out, and this thing showed up on one of the graphics, and it actually, you know, gives you you have to be in the yellow or the red to win. One of the things that I found that's really important is that I was in the green until I told them that I run a fireplace insert, and that 1.5 cord of wood a year put me into the yellow. So make sure you're thinking about all the ways that you heat your home when you're filling this thing out. So that's just one little tip that I learned. This is the form that said that I was going to spend, let me see, that's the report. Let me get this one. So my house is about 1,930 cubic square feet. I was going to, the total cost of the work that I was going to have done was $3,900. The utility paid $1,800 and I paid $2,000. And that's because some of the things, at least back in 2015, were not totally 50%. There were some items, although I had all 3 of the things that you said done. We had only 3 inches of blown insulation in the attic. We got 16 inches. We had no insulation in the basement. We got those foam core things around. Made a huge difference in the way the basement functions. And we put some foam under an area that just had a crawl space. So, you know, they, again, as everyone else said, all the things were recommended. It was just wonderful to watch it happen. We did the blower door at the beginning, and then they come in after they've done it all, and they do the blower door test at the end. Jason, it's nice to see you. It's been a minute. And then they actually told you how much difference it was. So on mine, last piece of thing here, they indicated that I would save 304 therm of natural gas, we run on gas, 3,618 pounds of CO2 emissions, and that it would save me about $360 a year on my energy bill, which has proved to be about true. But for us, the most important thing has been the comfort. We really feel the difference. So, thank you.
Thank you. There's a couple of alternative approaches to NH Saves and the kind of official program. There's a whole lot you can do yourself. As I mentioned, you want to be a little careful. You don't want to accidentally cause problems. But if you are a do-it-yourselfer type, it would be worth letting these guys know. In some cases, they can give you advice about what pieces you can do and what pieces you should really leave to the professionals. And there's a whole lot of information about things you can do yourself on the Vital Communities website, vitalcommunities.org/weatherize. So if you're curious about that, look there. There's also some printouts of some of those resources on the resource table. We also have access to a really unique program here in the Upper Valley, and we're kind of on the outer edge of that. Anyone familiar with Cover Home Repair? Great, okay, so this is an organization that's based in White River Junction, but they'll travel 45 minutes in any direction. And throughout the winter, they run these volunteer weatherization projects where they send one trained professional and a team of volunteers out to the home of someone who's lower in income and really has trouble doing this stuff on their own. And they set up a blower door, they do sort of a do-it-yourself plus level, a lot of air sealing and some light installation. So if you're looking for an easy and kind of community-spirited way to learn about this stuff and then apply it to your own house, you can contact these guys and sign up for a volunteer project, go out to someone else's home, learn how to do it, and then come back and do it on your own home. I strongly recommend looking into these guys. And there are programs in New Hampshire that are income eligible. So for anyone who thinks they might be close to that line, again, if you go to vitalcommunities.org/weatherize, in the resource section, we've got all the links, who you should call and how to find out if you're eligible. The CAP agencies, I don't think this is your CAP, sorry about that. The CAP agencies offer a home energy assistance program, and that is in collaboration with NH Saves as well. So if you accidentally get into the NH Saves program, but you actually could take advantage of the low-income version, they will help redirect you. That is a free weatherization program. Typically, there's quite a wait list for that, but it's worth finding out if you qualify and how long that wait list is. And then, of course, Cover Home Repair will go 45 minutes from White River Junction. So if you're within that range and need something more quickly, they're another good resource. All right, so now I'm going to walk you through the perks of the Weatherize Kearsarge program, which is, of course, why we're all here today. But before I do, I just want to, again, explain why we have the solar company here. This whole Weatherize Kearsarge, Solarize Kearsarge is part of a big year of energy, year of climate action in the Kearsarge region. So although right now we're focused on weatherization because it's winter and you should always start with efficiency first if you can, we are going to be launching a Solarize program, and early birds are welcome. So if you already know, like me, I'll be talking to Eric afterwards, that you want to find out if solar can work for you, there's no reason to wait until we officially launch in April. You can talk to these guys anytime. But back to Weatherize, you need to know that this is truly a team effort. Vital Communities designed this program because we realized that there were shockingly few people in the Kearsarge region and in our whole Upper Valley region who were taking advantage of the NH Saves program and getting this work done. And we decided we needed to change that. So NH Saves and my team and your volunteer team and Kearsarge Climate Action and all these contractors have all been part of designing this program and pulling it together. We've been working for months together to get ready for today and ready to help you through this. So it's really been a team effort, and glad you're here. The program perks. I'm going to walk through this slowly so you can hopefully understand. Contractors is the #1 program perk. We've got 3 of them. They're all pre-vetted and qualified and capable of doing this. I've worked with these guys in past Weatherize campaigns and know them pretty well. And as you'll see, there's not a whole lot of difference between them that really matters. So you should just pick someone you like and feel good about that. Part of the reason that you don't have to worry about who you choose is that they're all offering the same $100 energy audit for everyone. I already mentioned that 60 to 70% of you are going to qualify for the NH Saves rebate program. So you'll pay your $100 for the audit, and NH Saves will cover whatever the rest of that fee would have been. Energy audits typically would cost several $100s, $400 or more in some cases. So this is a really good deal. For anyone who doesn't qualify for NH Saves, maybe you keep your thermostat really low and you don't use that extra quart-and-a-half of wood, and you still want to get an energy audit, our contractors have agreed to still offer you a $100 audit. That was part of what we tried to do because we felt like it wasn't fair to offer $100 to one group and not to everyone else. The one catch of that is if you're not in NH Saves, then that means that NH Saves is not paying the contractor back on the back end. So instead, You'll pay $100 for your energy audit plus a $200 deposit toward whatever work you have done, which is just the contractor's way of making sure that they don't completely lose money on offering you a $100 energy audit. And if you do go ahead, that $200 goes towards your project. And if you decide you don't want to go ahead, then you effectively have a $300 energy audit, which is still a really quite good deal for an energy audit. Does that make sense? Okay, great. Third point, consistent pricing for everybody. There's another reason you don't have to worry about which contractor you choose. For the group, the 60-70% of you who are going to qualify for NH Saves sets the pricing. And it is a 50% copay for pretty much everything that was mentioned by David. But the pricing is set across the board, so you don't have to worry about it. And it's very, very competitive pricing. I see prices for these projects on Vermont and New Hampshire side of the river because I run this program on both sides of the river, and consistently the price for weatherization over here is cheaper than it is in Vermont, simply because Vermont has been allowing its contractors to set their prices for longer, and over here it's been more controlled. So you're getting a very good deal. So that's the 60-70% of you. So now what about the 30-40% of you who aren't going to qualify for NH Saves, and technically NH Saves isn't fixing your price for you? Our contractors have agreed to still offer consistent pricing, which is very generous of them. So it's going to be based on the NH Saves base price, and then they're going to add 10% to it. And that 10% on the scale of a weatherized job is basically just going to cover them back for the cost of that energy audit that they would have been reimbursed for if you were an NH Saves person. So it's still consistent across the board. It's still very good compared to what you would get outside of this program. Does that make sense? Fourth point, you get support through this program. It can be a little complicating to get all these recommendations and sift through them and figure out how to do the rebate application. In this program, you don't have to do it alone. You've got your volunteer team, you've got my team, you've got NH Saves. So part of the benefit of this is we're all doing it together at the same time, which means you don't have to feel stuck at any point. And I very much encourage you to reach out if you ever do feel stuck. And then finally, we have a prize drawing because we know that deadlines motivate people to action. So we will be drawing a $500 prize winner, one winner for the Kearsarge region. So if you commit to your project by the end of the program, which I'll get to in a minute, we'll put your name in the hat and one lucky winner will get $500. Okay, so now to the how to participate bit. The first step is really easy. You just take your little yellow card, put your contact information on there. There's a basket at the door and just leave your card in the basket. I'll follow up with an email that lays out all of your next steps. And your next step, the important next step, is to fill out what we're calling a Weatherize questionnaire. You're going to do a little bit of homework before you'll be ready to fill this out. And you'll do this all online. If you already know that you do not want to fill out a questionnaire on the internet, there are paper copies of this questionnaire at the back table, and the volunteers can help you get a copy of that. What you're going to do to do some homework before you are ready to fill it out is look up your square footage. We've got instructions on the website for how to find that information online. All of the towns participating in Weatherize Kearsarge except Warner actually have online resources to look up your square footage, and we've broken it down step by step for you, so that should be pretty easy. Heating history. You might have records of your own, but often the easiest thing to do is to call up your fuel provider and ask them to send you the past 2 years of heating deliveries and what they delivered, and then you can just add those up, and you'll need those records when you apply for your NH Saves rebate anyway. And then, of course, as we heard earlier, you want to make sure you're thinking about all of your fuel sources, the wood and the propane and the oil and whatever else. And then third, you're going to want to know who you want to work with. Pick the one of the 3 contractors that you like, or close your eyes and just pick one, it doesn't matter. And you're going to need to know who they are before you start the questionnaire, because we're going to ask you who your preference is. And then you fill it out. It's pretty easy to fill out once you have these things. There's a couple of other questions about your house and about what you're most concerned about or what you most want to fix. And once you've filled all that out, we are going to send you an email with all of that information in a nice little package so you can refer to it, because conveniently, everything we just asked you for in here is exactly the same information you need to apply for NH Saves. So it's going to be really easy for you to fill out that application. We're also going to send all of that information to your contractor so that they have all the information that they need to help you fill out your application for NH Saves if you need that help, and to get you ready for your energy audit. and they're going to call you or email you within a couple days of you hitting submit and ask if you've successfully submitted your energy saves application and schedule you for an energy audit. Almost forgot to mention, you have a deadline for this. So March 15th is our stop date when we'll stop accepting these questionnaires to be part of the program. You are all here so early that I would recommend that you do this as quickly as you can. In my experience, as we get closer to March 15th, there's a lot of people who try to sign up and do this, and there's quite a bottleneck, and people then have to wait for their energy audit and wait for their report. So if all of you get ahead of the game and fill this out in the next couple of weeks, you will find that it's a much smoother process. Once you've connected with your contractor, the next step is your energy audit. We already talked about what that's going to be like. A couple weeks after you have your energy audit, you're going to be getting a report back. Now, what this report is not going to be is a packet of glossy photographs and paragraphs of text, everything about your home. What it is going to be is a nice summary of what you discussed with your contractor when they were on site. It's going to break down what they recommend in each part of your house and how much that's going to cost for each of those measures. And it's going to be quite a laundry list. It's going to include just about everything that they can think of that would be a savvy, smart recommendation for you. You don't have to do it all. In some cases, you'll want to, and that's fine. In some cases, you'll have a limited budget or you'll have a particular priority you're going after. In that case, you're going to go back and forth with your contractor, and they are really good at helping to hone in on the right scope of work, the right mix of things. So you're going to get your report, but then you're going to contact your contractor and talk it out. And you just have to decide that you want to go ahead by the end of May, which hopefully, if you all get on this quickly, will be no problem. That's plenty of time to make a decision. If you do commit to a project by the end of May, you don't have to finish it by then. You just have to decide you're going to go ahead. We will put your name in the hat for that $500 prize drawing. And once you've committed, you'll work with your contractor to schedule a time to do the project. Probably will take 2 or 3 days, which might be all clustered together, or you might spread it out over the course of a couple weeks, depending on your schedule and your contractor's schedule. And then as soon as it's done, you'll notice the difference. I had a lot of people who did their weatherization insulation work in the summer last year, and the next day, in the middle of a heat snap, they're going, wow, that made such a difference. So it really is pretty neat. And I will just again point you to the website, which is on your handout. The link to the questionnaire is there. Whole lot of resources, some paper versions of which are on the back table. Contact information for me, information about the contractors, and all of that jazz. So this is your go-to resource. So with that, I would like to invite up our contractors, Will and Ted and Bob, to come on up. We are going to give them just a minute to introduce themselves so you get a sense of who they are. I would encourage you to stick around after to get to know them a bit too. And then once they're done introducing themselves, we'll open it up for Q&A and they'll help me answer any questions you have. We'll go for, 20, 25 minutes or so on that, and then we'll let you go and mingle. So, Will, you want to start?
Sure. Hello, my name is Will. I work for Quality Insulation Meredith. We're a larger company. We have branches throughout the whole country, but kind of like a franchise. So we work out of Meredith. That branch has been around for about 35 years, prior to us being purchased about 15 years by a larger company. My boss has been there, so we have some local ties with a lot of contractors and stuff like that. Myself, I do retrofit work only on older homes and through these rebate programs. We have crews specifically, 3 crews specifically that do just the work on existing houses and know the standards of these rebate programs, as well as a couple spray foam trucks. So all the work that we do is in-house with crews that work directly with me and do the work. We don't subcontract anything out to anyone. We've done a decent amount of work in this area, especially last year through other Lyme, Orford over there, but looking to expand and do some more work in this area. It's definitely a lot of homes in New Hampshire, obviously, that could benefit from this program and the work that we do. So hopefully we can work together and help make your house a little bit more comfortable and efficient. Thanks.
I'm Bob Eldridge. I'm with ABC Energy Savings. And Sarah, thank you very much for explaining what the ABC Energy Savings is about, from your attic, your basement, to the center of the home. I transitioned out of the computer industry back in 2010. Hit a certain age level, just could not find another job for some reason. It happens. So I reinvented myself, and I first worked for the USA Solar Stores here in New Hampshire. So I installed a solar system in my own house back in 2010. Made about 30% of my production at that point because I was basically unemployed, didn't have that money to put into it. But then I learned about these things called home energy audits. It's like, well, every home needs help with that. So I got involved more with that. Since then, in my own home, we went from a solar panel that made about 30% of my production. By the time I moved out, it was making 60%. I just learned how to use less electricity so it would make more. It was very simple. And I used my wife as my kind of like my case study. Well, if I can change something and it's not noticed and we're using less energy, that passes the test. So I did a lot of things in my own home. I took it from 1,400 gallons of oil a year down to 750 gallons a year. It was a lot more comfortable. Did my son's home last year, filled his oil tank in the fall. I come back in the spring, it's a quarter tank, 3/4 full. It's like, what's going on here? And he used 2 cords of wood, and it's a 1,000-foot cape, really old one, we did that. So over the winter season, it was quarter inch oil and 2 cords of wood, and he kept his house around 75 degrees. So it does work with that. I'm a little bit different. I work as an independent energy auditor, and I work with multiple contractors that do the work very well. And in this region, I'll be working a lot with Shea Insulation. We have Amanda Brown back here. And we just finished up a project in Bradford. The customer's first comments was, I can't believe how much more comfortable and quiet my home is. Talked to her a week later, she's like, Bob, I had to turn my boiler on to make sure it still worked. She was using a wood stove, and that was now heating the whole house. So I also work in the solar area, and the key thing is how to bring your usage down so you're not investing in as many panels. So the trick is how to do that also. So this is where I'm a little bit different, working as independent, because I want to comprehensively look at your whole house and go through the whole thing. And thank you very much. And Jason, great seeing you.
I want to know Jason.
Yeah.
Well, I know Jason from the Residential Energy Performance Association. I'm on the board with that. And these are monthly workshops we run for auditors like myself, how we keep educated with up and coming and what's going on, all the different things with a home on that. I'm also a member of the, I know I'm getting closer to you. I'm also a member of the Kearsarge Area Chamber, been doing that for many years and very familiar with this area. So glad to be here. And volunteers, thank you very much for getting this great turnout.
All right, thanks. Hi, my name's Ted. I'm with Yankee Thermal Imaging. We are a company based out of Rochester. We've been around for about 10 years. So we've been in hundreds and hundreds of homes, old homes made before the Declaration of Independence, and also been in homes that are only 10 years old. In fact, one of the worst homes I've ever was in was a $5.5 million home that was only 10 years old, and it got into this rebate program that Sarah so expertly told you about. So a little surprising to see a house like that, 6,000 square feet, on liquid Fasaki. Qualifying for the rebate program. Let's see. We also do new home. Excuse me. Yeah, I was. Is that why you recognize my voice?
I recognize.
Yes, Sarah and I had a little thing on the exchange here. We also do new construction and commercial. So we have about 20 people on our team. We have 3 or 4 crews of people that are out there on the roads every day. Some of them are doing retrofit jobs. Some of them are doing new construction. Some are doing commercial. We're a BPI certified company just like everybody else here, and we do full-scale energy audits. We do the work, and then we come back and inspect it at the end, so we sort of do it from the beginning right to the end. Definitely excited to be a part of another weatherization campaign. We did the Upper Valley one over in Orford, Lyme, Cornish, that area there. We did about 65 audits, I think, and out of that we did about 35 projects, so we're still putting the finishing touches on a couple of those projects. It's been a while. But yeah, this area is definitely a little bit underserved, I think. We haven't done a whole lot of work in this area, and I don't think that the New Hampshire Saves program has been involved in a lot of homes in this area too, so really excited to sort of expand out into this area. Anyway, back there we have a table. I got some brochures, obviously, some photos. Got a couple sample reports you can look at, so you can kind of see what you'll get. And I'll be hanging out with everybody else at the end if you want to talk. And we have a clipboard. You can sign up with your name and number if you'd like to get a call about just scheduling your audit. Thanks.
Thank you. So those were our 3 contractors. The only other person that I haven't officially introduced, he might just wave at you, is Gordon Tuttle in the back. We've been talking a lot about NHSAs, but Gordon's standing and waving. Anybody who's got questions about the rebate program can go and chat with Gordon. If you're an Eversource customer, he's the one who approves your project and helps you with your application if you get totally stuck. Gordon, anything that I should be mentioning that I haven't mentioned yet?
One change for the rebates for this year, 2019, is that we're paying 100% of air sealing costs.
100% of air sealing cost this year. That is a fresh off the presses announcement. That's really good. Awesome. All right, so yet another reason to get involved in this program. So I'm going to ask the contractors to come back up. Sorry, guys. We are going to take any and all of your questions now about anything you've heard today. Does anyone have a question to kick us off? Yes.
It appears as though it makes sense to cite both your fuel cost and the electrical cost if you heat with a different fuel source than electricity, because the more your heat goes on, the more electricity you're using. Is that figured into the algorithm of the qualification for New Hampshire Saves?
No, it's not. The only time that we take electric usage into account is if it's electric heat. So mini splits, electric baseboard, those types of things.
Yep.
So there will be some electric savings, obviously, you're correct. You know, if your boiler is running less often, those pumps are running less often, pellet stove fans use a decent amount of electricity. So there is electric savings that will be calculated into your payback calculations in your report, but it's not accounted for the qualifying, yes.
And who determines the qualifications? How do you figure whether or not you qualify?
So there's an algorithm that they use. The chart, the yellow, green, and red chart that we had on the PowerPoint, basically the square footage of your house, and it's in reference to how much energy you're using. So they allow you to use 2 sources. So if you do have 3 or 4 sources, there's some changes that we can make, work with a volunteer, work with one of the contractors, and we can kind of do some conversions to, make it work for you. But basically it's, say you use oil and firewood, and your house is 2,000 square feet, you put 2,000 square feet in, how many gallons of oil, how many quarts of firewood, and then if it's enough, it will qualify.
And do you know right then, after you put the data in, whether or not you qualify?
As long as the data that you're giving us is accurate and correct, yes. So if it's pre-approved, as long as that square footage is correct and the amount of fuel that you're using is correct, then nothing is going to make it so you don't qualify.
And you'll know as soon as you complete the application.
Correct, and then you just sign it and mail it in.
Now, you'll calculate, you'll see that little chart show up. Just like that gentleman said, you want to be in the yellow. And you'll know right away.
Yeah, as long as you're an 8 or higher in that yellow, there'll be a little link underneath that says, click here to fill out the enrollment form.
Tells you need improvement.
So I forgot Lisa in the back. It reminded me, if you do have to cut out early, make sure you fill out your yellow card. She's got the basket. Thank you, Lisa.
I just got a point of information. I just ran into her again today at the London Recycle Center. We can help ourselves a lot by donating things for cover to sell, because then they can pay or they can get their volunteers, whatever. It all feeds into the program. And there's so much stuff that we throw away. So think before you she was picking up this woman fills her car every time she comes to the dump. Before you throw away your shoe things that you don't want in your closet anymore, call up and see if somebody will come and get all this stuff or whatever they might have planned for. And I don't know how to describe what it is except it's in my day.
I can describe it because my office is right up the street. This is a really great point. So that cover weatherization volunteer program I mentioned out of White River Junction has a store, and the proceeds from their store, it's like a thrift store, but it's for your house. So they have doors and windows and tile and all kinds of home improvement equipment, as well as furniture, appliances, cabinets, and household goods. So if you have any of that you're getting rid of, donating it to the cover store in downtown White River Junction. They'll even send a box truck to pick it up if you've got enough stuff. The proceeds from that go to help your neighbors weatherize. It's pretty great.
And they're struggling now that the new secondhand store has opened up. What's it called?
Restore.
They're having a problem now. They're not getting as much stuff. So
donate to cover. Thank you for the pitch.
Go ahead.
So a question in regards to the closed cell spray foam. Yeah, in the earlier days, it had formaldehyde and some other chemicals in it that once it was applied, it would still be off-gassing later. That's been resolved a long time ago. So it will not do the off-gassing anymore. It is important, if closed cell spray foam is one of the recommendations, you will need to vacate the home for 24 hours because when the chemicals mix, it will give off a vapor at that point, but then it will no longer gas thereafter. So you will need to vacate for 24 hours.
Maybe to add on to the spray foam too, Bob's correct, but it will off gas if it's not put in correctly. And in New Hampshire, there really is no sort of state oversight or regulation of what we do, insulation and stuff. So any of you guys want to be a spray foam contractor, I think there's a rig on Craigslist. You can buy it this weekend and go out next week and start spraying and just hope that the homeowner doesn't say, like, well, how many jobs have you done? And you're, one, my first one, right? So, you know, our crews have all been doing it. We're all insured, we're all trained, we're all certified. So I have had a lot of customers in the past that give me other quotes that they've got from other companies. And I was like, I can't match that price, no way. You know, but if you want to go with them, you better ask them some hard questions because they might not have any idea what they're doing. So that's one of the benefits of the program is that you're going to be working with people who know what they're doing.
So before I take another question, Susan, one of our volunteers, just asked me to make the plug and remind you that if when you do that little calculator online to find out if you can qualify for the NH6 rebates, if you don't quite qualify, it's still worth chatting with a contractor because it might be that when you look at the numbers again, you actually can get over that line. That was the case for me. I wasn't going to qualify, but then it turned out good.
That was the case with the minister also.
That was the case with the minister also. Although he had it on his side.
Some towns will, if you look on the property tax card, some towns will list square footage and they'll include everything, like your unheated porch and everything else. For this program, we're really just looking at the heated square footage, so you can't always just look at like what your property tax card calls living space.
And we've got instructions for all that online, yeah. Yes?
So are you looking at gross living space or effective when you look online?
Gross living space.
But they're not always correct. I just had a situation, very uncommon, but like just this last week, where they had a huge living room, and the living room was vaulted up to the second story, and it was literally about 800 square feet of included square footage of the second story that doesn't have a floor to stand on. So that brought them above.
They go by the square footage, not the cubic feet.
Yeah.
And would a second home qualify for the New Hampshire Saves program?
Yes, second homes are eligible. Yes?
How about condos?
Condos.
Condos work very well. In this program, in the Home Performance Energy Star, it also depends upon the utility company too, so there's always a what if, it depends. With Eversource, you need to be 4 units or less within that building, so there's 4 units, need to be 4 or less. And all 4 need to qualify for the program, even if only one of them does the work. We're talking to other utilities, there might be ways just for that one homeowner. And Gordon, I don't know if they're going to relax anytime this year, or?
No.
Okay.
If it's all electric heat, we can do more than 4 units in a building.
Okay. So each utility will vary a little bit too, so be aware of that. Detached condos are not a problem. You may have an issue if something needs to be done to the outside of the home, like exhausting a bathroom fan. I had one condo association would not allow a homeowner to vent their bathroom fan outside because it's putting a hole in the wall to put an exhaust to it. It was a long legal battle. We finally got it done.
So you said Warner does not have square footage. Where do you get it?
You just call the clerk and we've got the number on
So they
it.
have it. It's just
Exactly,
not
they
on-
have it, it's just not online, yeah.
You can Google your address too. So if you just Google 123 Main Street in Warner, you know, they may not be as accurate as the tax ID card, but a lot of times Zillow and Trulia reference the tax ID card, so it may just pop right up. If you don't think the numbers are correct, then maybe look into it a little bit further, but I find they're pretty often correct.
We have spoken to the town office in Warner, they know you guys are gonna be calling, so that's fine too.
Yeah, I don't live in one of these 6 participating towns. I still participate.
That's a case-by-case thing, you're seeing nodding heads here. Our contractors have, where do you live?
Sonoby.
Yes. So we've been very clear with the contractors that there's likely to be some spillover, and they've all said that within reason, of course, they're going to help you. So yeah, just be in touch. Yeah, John.
Yeah, Sarah, any federal tax benefits involved?
Not at the moment.
There is a federal form that you can fill out for work that has been completed, but definitely consult with your tax professional, not one of your utilities, and help.
Consult with your tax professional is the advice.
I had windows done a few years back and got 30%.
There used to be a federal tax credit, it kept getting extended,
Yeah,
but then they cut that out. I think it was about 2 years ago, they stopped it completely.
okay.
We live in solar and you got a rebate from the state and federal. The state rebate turned out to be taxable. Is that an issue? Is there any way around that, or is that something that people know, or are they going to get horrible surprises?
Well, so in this case, it's a copay, not a check written out to you. So you're not actually taking in any money. There shouldn't be any tax implications. I'm thinking that right.
They're taxing us, not you. On the rebate, it's paid directly to us, so it's not, you're not taxed on it.
Okay, we have a rental apartment. Who actually applies for the renter or the owner?
Good question. Yeah, you can do it for a rental property. The paperwork has to be done through the person whose the electric meter is in. So obviously, your renter, well, you'd be pretty mad if your renter did it without your permission, but you have to work something out with your landlord, is what I'm saying. So it's usually when we do rental properties, the paperwork is done in the name of the person who's on the electric meter, but obviously, usually the landlord who's paying for it is organizing it and getting it done. Yeah. Good question, though. We do a lot of work we did a property in Newmarket last year that had, it looked, from the outside, just looked like a big single-story home, but there were actually 4 apartments in there, and they had 4 electric meters, so they ended up getting 4 different rebates, which is $16,000 for that building, because it goes by the number of electric meters, not the number of, furnaces or boilers or people or anything like that, so. Good to know if you either are a renter or you have a property that's a rental property.
Yes.
What are the rebates and incentives for solar?
Well.
Just like I can answer that. There's a 30% federal tax credit. It's called the investment tax credit. Who did the question? Was it you? Thank you. Looking at the right person instead of you. The investment tax credit is 30% throughout the remainder of 2019, and it's dropping down to 26% for next year, and then it'll be gone for residential applications. It'll be 10% for commercial applications after that point, unless it gets extended. It was extended in 2016, but I wouldn't bank on that. There's also a state rebate program with the Renewable Energy Fund that's administered by the PUC. The utilities pay into the Renewable Energy Fund as part of their compliance with the renewable portfolio standards. Those state rebates are $1,000 for residential installations right now, and 40 cents a watt for commercial installations up to 100,000 watts. There's a wait list on the commercial side. Rebates are still available for the residential side. And then that's pretty much it for the cash incentives. There's also, if you're commercial, you can depreciate, use accelerated depreciation with the array, and there are some other benefits. That's it.
I heat with cold salt water. My boiler also runs my 50-gallon hot water tank. There's a way of figuring that into the formula.
The question was, if you have indirect hot water for your domestic hot water, or like a tankless coil, so if your oil boiler heats your hot water for your shower and sink at the same time, if you have to separate that, which you do not. So you still get your 12-month history for your oil usage, and we don't reduce it at all during the qualification process. So that doesn't have any impact on it at all.
I'm wondering if there are things that the contractors do not do. Do they recommend other contractors, like say for example, skylight problem or something, or an eave on the roof or something I'm just wondering.
That's a really great question. In fact, the volunteers are probably smiling because we had this conversation earlier this week. We have noticed that this happens. People ask us and the contractors for referrals for electricians or drywallers or a guy to put in a skylight. And so we are, as a team, in collaboration with the contractors, working on a short list of folks that we could recommend. So yes, between all of the volunteers who live in this community, have had work done, and know local guys, and these guys who know who they refer to, we should be able to help you if you're trying to find someone to help with the work that these guys can't do.
But in other words, do they address everything that has to do with any kind of heat leak, like a skylight, or would you have to refer us out?
Skylights get a little bit tricky when you get into windows also. There's different recommendations. I recommend like really good interior comfort type shades on tracks. They also make interior storm windows. But again, that's another company that would handle that. Anything that requires a licensed electrician, These crews do not have licensed electricians on staff, so typically with bathroom fan installs, replacements, that is where we need an electrician. There are times that we're going to need additional drywall to come help do some distant things after we've done our work also. Things like mold remediation, that will be handled by another contractor. The knob and tube is another one we typically find, that's got to be an electrician that does that. So these are things we've been working with the volunteers and all that. Let's get like a common list with that, so we can quickly say, hey, go call this company.
But let's say, for example, the ceiling has to be replaced, the insulation, but the ceiling would be put back with the drywall and all that. It would be repaired as if it were.
Yeah, that would be another company doing the actual drywall, the complete drywall. We will do patchwork and things like that for temporary access.
The whole ceiling.
But when you come doing a whole ceiling, that's really, you should have a drywall company doing that.
Wow.
There's an art to it. I've tried mudding before and I know to stay away from it.
All right, and I do just want to throw in, did you two ski here?
I'm not literally.
I noticed some ski boots in the front, and I was wondering if we had skiing commuters here, but I guess you don't get that prize. We are close to time. Are there any final questions before I let you go and mingle? Yeah.
I just wanted to know about ice dams. How the heck do those work?
They happen for a variety of reasons. Sometimes you can have an ice dam even like on an unheated shed in your backyard if you have the right colored roof and it's facing the right way and it's the right steepness. But in most cases, in a building that has heat in it, most of the ice dams are being predominantly caused by heat loss. So if we come in and do something to help you with, lower your energy bills and lower your heating costs by keeping the heat in the house better so it's not going up and melting the snow. A lot of times when I come into a house, people will show me where the ice dam is and says, well, that's where I want you to work, fix that. And I say, where's your attic? Like, no. The attic, the roof where your ice dam is perfectly fine. It's cold the way it's supposed to be. The problem is, up in the attic, that's where the problem is starting, that the snow is melting at the top because there's too much heat, and it comes down and it hits the roof that's actually normal, and it freezes because it's already turned into a liquid. So, we never promise anybody we can completely eliminate their ice dams, but in most cases, almost every case, it should take a serious bite out of it. Sometimes, some of these crazy architects get crazy with these crazy bumped ups and bump out roof lines, and they'll put 3 huge roofs all ganging up on one little low angle porch roof. So, you're gonna have an ice dam there probably no matter what. Even if you move to Florida and turn the heat off for a while, you're still gonna have an ice dam. It's just a matter of, it's a stupid roof, So there's some things we can't do anything with, but in most cases it's being caused, like I said, predominantly by heat loss, and that's what we do. So
Now the skylight.
skylights can help with that. They can make that worse because it interferes with the ventilation of the roof and it holds snow back, and so it can be kind of complicated. But in most cases, like I said, it's related to heat loss, and that's what we're specializing in. So
the ventilation is an aspect of that too. So it's very situational. You have to look at each house, and then you go down that avenue of explaining it to the homeowner. But the insulation is typically in regular application. It's just slowing down and reducing the heat loss. So you still have heat that's going to get up into your attic at a slower rate, and then you need gable end vents or soffit or ridge ventilation to evacuate that heat. So you can have a well-insulated attic that's not vented properly that still has problems. So that's something we all look at and address at the same time.
We'll take a look at the ventilation too while we're there, because I've been to houses where, when I'm standing at the front door, waiting for them to answer the door, I'll look up and I'll see, louvered soffit vents, and I'll write down soffit vents. But I'll put a big question mark next to it, because before I leave, I'm going to go up there and look at it and make sure, because I've been in homes where you have a perforated vinyl soffit vent all the way around the house, but when you pull it down and look, it's just solid wood all the way around the house. So these people thought they had a vented attic this time. It really hasn't been. It just looks like it's vented. So there's a lot of crazy things out there. Or ridge vents that from the outside of the house, it looks like there's a ridge vent, and you go in the attic and it's actually not cut in, it's sealed up. Not really working very well.
Just 1 or 2 more questions in the back here.
The owner of my condo lives in Massachusetts.
So the owner is in Massachusetts.
What does that do to my application?
Is the electric bill in your name?
Yes,
And then would you be paying for it, or would the landlord be paying for it?
probably the landlord.
Okay, that's a good thing. We can, and again, it's a matter, it's got a local address, we've got a New Hampshire meter on it. And then we see if the home qualifies, and then we'd be working with the landlord about the cost with that, and they would be paying for it. So
What was your last statement? Thanks.
we'd be working with the landlord in regards to the payment,
Yes.
unless they're reimbursing you. So they don't have to live in state in order to own a building, they can live out of state.
Thank you, that was my
Yeah.
question that I didn't know to ask.
Oh, I work with the New Hampshire Real Estate Investment Association, so I work with a lot of landlords, a lot of flippers and all that, so yeah, we get all sorts of requests.
Yes.
If you cut your own firewood, how do you prove how much energy you use?
Just you cut your own firewood. How you prove the energy usage through that is you just take pictures of your wood pile and pictures of your wood stove. You know, so if you're saying they're using 10 cords of firewood, we want to see that you know, you have 5 left or 2 left, or a big spot where you had 10 cords at one point, and then a relatively large, you know, wood stove or a couple wood stoves. You know, but they're, you know, they're pretty lenient. I mean, the people that we're sending the report, the forms to, they want to spend the money and they want to help you qualify. So, you know, if there's any little questions or anything like that, get a hold of your contractor, volunteer, and we'll help you through the process and do everything we can to qualify the home.
You can take a picture of your right bicep and the calluses.
There you go.
Show up and you don't have a wood stove? You're in trouble.
All right, final question. Okay. If there's no more questions, I'm going to let you go and mingle. But first, I'm going to invite Ed back up here to say just a few final words for you. Here you go, Ed.
Well, thank you very much for coming and for all the good questions. If you have any more questions, there are the contractors around the room. The volunteers have name tags. They are around the room. And also, we don't like wasting energy here. We also don't like wasting food. Food down here if you want some snack on the way out. Fill out the yellow card. At least you're going to hold the basket on the way out. At the bottom of the yellow card, if you're interested in solar, there's a little check place. Fill that out, put it in, and then you'll get an email from us. It'll be the next step. Thank you very much.